Welcome to the talk show Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. The goal of this show is to provide a learning experience to people of all ages, with guests from various fields in academics, a wide range of industries, and insight into the many forms of art, athletics, and entertainment. We hope you enjoy the show. Hollywood correspondent, television producer, and actress Antoinette Love Ransom is today's guest. Antoinette will talk about her career in Hollywood and balancing her work with being a philanthropist and a mother.
Antoinette Love Ransom, welcome to Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.
Nice. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Antoinette, I was going to read your bio. I do that sometimes in the beginning, but it's not a 3-hour show, so I really don't have time for that. It just goes on and on. So I did the math. I think you sleep 40 minutes a week. So I guess the first question could be, why are you so lazy? But I don't want to be insulting right off the onset. You've done so much, so let's start from the beginning. What can you tell us about how you ended up in what we're going to call the entertainment business?
Wow. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri, and as a child, I was always into theater. And I got tired of being the big fish in a small pond. I got tired of that. I'm like, there has to be something more than Kansas City, Missouri. Like, what else is out there? And everybody's like, well, you have to go to California or New York to make it, as an actress. So that was the start of like what got me into entertainment. And I was always in talent shows back home, dancing, acting, performing. I was always doing something creative. So that's what got me into it. The shift came when I was 24 and I moved from Kansas City to Los Angeles. That was the shift. And LA is a different world, as you know. It was not what I expected. So different. So in a very, very cutthroat, very callous, very superficial, it's not what it was different than the world I came from in theater.
Interesting, because I went out probably 2 years ago to the HAPA Awards. We did some business roundtables, and I've been to LA with camp groups before and with my wife, and I went out there, and unfortunately or fortunately, it is what it is. It's everything you just said. And I went to during these award shows, they have like as you know, a weekend that, it was a whole celebration. It started with a fashion show, and I knew this guy, Bernie Martin, who was running the fashion show. And he said, you want a backstage pass? I came backstage, and people were walking around, and it was just so live into my vibe. And I started to hear superficial comments and everything, and beautiful goddess women and very good-looking young men were coming by. And I looked at my watch. I said, I have jet lag. I'm tired. This would have been really great 30 years ago, but I'm going to bed. So
oh my gosh, that's funny.
And I've done this show for about 3 years now, and it's amazing when people say you'll never work in this town again. Everybody knows everybody. People I interview who are voiceover actors or actresses, and people who are on commercials, that they all know everybody. So
true.
It really is, you screw someone over or they screw you over something. I mean, this is a very, very tight-knit group. But everything you said, and we'll get to that later. I always talk about the story behind the glory.
Yes.
Yes. So that's how you get out there. But you got out there and you saw all this, and none of the things you mentioned are good. So you stayed, look at the success you achieved. So what flipped the switch?
I think when I switched from wanting to become an actress to getting into production, getting behind the camera instead of in front of the camera, that was the shift for me, because I love both. But I found it more gratifying to be behind the camera, like far as helping to produce, cast talents, just do anything where I was behind the camera creatively. Even designing costumes. People don't know I didn't know how to design and make costumes from scratch, like drafting the pattern, cutting it out, sewing it. I know how to do that as well. So I found more joy doing that, and that opened up some doors for me. Although I will always say my passion for acting is still there. It's just LA is a little different than New York. New York appreciates the talent, right? LA is all about the look. And they don't care if you have no talent, long as you look good or you're hot and popping and trending, they want to put you on TV. But New York is about the talent. And if I could do it over, I think I should have went to New York instead of LA, but I made LA work. Does that make sense? I made it work.
I'm wondering because obviously if you can't tell that I'm from New York from my accent, we got problems. But born in Yonkers, New York, raised there. But is it possible that it might be all about talent because of the center being Broadway?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Broadway just opened up doors for not just theater, but just entertainment in general. And I think people really don't understand that until they get to LA and they start auditioning. And they're like, oh my God, this is not about talent. It's about the way you look when you walk out the door and the director says, oh, her teeth are too big, or her lips are too big, her skin's too dark, her hair's too nappy, or her body's too fat. Like those are the critiques you get in LA. New York is not like that. I noticed when I flew to New York, I was doing a project in New York, so opposite. It's about the talent, it's not about the look. And I think that's where LA, we still have some work to do. We have some work to do,
Well,
you know?
I appreciate the honesty and the transparency, and it's really it's so refreshing that you go there because it has its great. I mean, there's no vibe like LA, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yes.
I never said
Yes.
it's palpable. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was at the Biltmore Hotel, which back in its heyday, one year hosted the Academy Awards, but the
Yes.
neighborhood has changed quite a bit.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'm in the hotel room and I'm watching the Harry Bosch series, and I thought I was in the Twilight Zone because there's a scene where Harry Bosch is in the bar that I had dinner in that night in the Biltmore.
Wow.
So it's like
Wow.
anything could just be that's that Hollywood vibe, and it's so exciting. But
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of young artists on, young actors. I was a teacher for 32 years, so I'm really in tune to the importance of young people, and it's destroyed a lot of childhood.
Yes.
I'm not
Yes.
talking Michael Jackson, some other people. I mean, superstars such as that, I get it. But so many bad stories and tragic stories, I would say, to destroy youth. So,
Yes.
so you mentioned that, you did go there originally to be an actress. What are some
Mm-hmm.
of your experiences with auditioning, with roles you may have gotten or may not have gotten? And how did that work for you?
Well, I got very lucky. I moved from Kansas City to LA, and I remember I was broke. I knew the cost of living in California was expensive, but I think I just went to LA with $5,000 in my pocket,
Mm.
and I was oblivious. I was living in a hotel, and I got lucky. Some casting director saw me in the grocery store, and she said, I'll never forget this. She says, you have the prettiest smile I've ever seen. And I'm like thinking, like, okay, as I'm buying my ramen noodles and water, I'm like, oh, thank you. And then she walks up to me, she says, where were you last week for the Colgate commercial audition? I said, well, I'm not represented by an agency yet. I just moved here from Kansas City and I had a country twang. I'm from Kansas City, like that. And she's like, she started laughing. She's like, I want you in my office next week and dress nice, very little makeup, and I want my partners and colleagues to see you. We were auditioning over 10,000 actors and actresses for the commercial. I said, okay. And can you? I couldn't believe it. I got the role in the commercial. It was a national commercial,
Wow.
and that fed me for a year. So I got paid $10,000 for the day, which they don't pay that well anymore,
Right,
and then
right.
I got paid $4,000 a month for residuals every
Wow.
month. So that helped me get through my first year in Los Angeles, get me into an apartment at the time, because we're talking about this is back in 2001, right before the terrorist attacks, right? So that helped me. That gave me that shift of, okay, I got money coming in every month. I can get with an agency, I can audition. I wasn't stressed out about making money right away. So that was a shift. The commercials opened doors for me. And then I did a Carl's Jr. commercial. That Colgate commercial led into another commercial. So that commercial fed me for the next year, right? so so auditioning for movie roles was complicated because at the time they were not casting a lot of dark-skinned women. They
Mm.
just weren't, unless you're like Angela Bassett or somebody already established. So I noticed when I was auditioning for the roles, they said I didn't have the right look. You have the talent, but not the right look. And I kept hearing that and hearing that and hearing that, where I got discouraged. I'm like, well, maybe I should just keep doing commercials, stay up in my acting classes, get back in dance classes. And that's what I did. But the commercials kind of fed me for a while, not the movies or the TV shows. It was the commercials. That was it for me.
Wow.
And then I did a couple of independent films, and I got a guest starring role on Days of Our Lives. And then the shift came. I'll never forget this. I don't even know if I should say this on camera. The shift came when I auditioned for a game show. Is like one of the girls on Price is Right. The girls that turn everything and bring out the prizes. I wanted that because it would pay me a consistent amount of money every week, and the money was good while I was auditioning for movie roles. And I'll never forget, I think the casting director, I forgot her name, Frances or something. She just told me I was too dark for TV. And that psychologically turned it did something to me. I was like, okay, I never heard that in Kansas City, but I'm hearing this in LA. We're supposed to be the most diversified place in the world, right? So I heard that, and that's when I took the shift and I said, I don't want to be an actress. If this is what it takes to be an actress, I don't want to be an actress. So I started getting into production and taking dance classes. I became a dancer. And then I started getting into costume design, went to school for it, graduated. Then I started making costume designs for like small independent films, and I became a fashion designer. Then I worked for the Tyra Banks show as assistant stylist, intern, and then her show was canceled. And then I kind of moved around. Then you had celebrities coming down to my loft downtown in LA, and I was making gowns and suits for the red carpet.
Wow.
They were just coming over my loft downtown, and I was like pushing it out, clothes everywhere, right? So that's where my life shifted. When I heard that comment from that one casting director, I'll never forget, she's probably passed away by now because she was old when she said that to me. But when she said that, it psychologically did something to me. And instead of moving forward and moving past that comment, I let it affect me in a negative way where I'm like, maybe acting's not for me if I'm too dark for TV, when she said that. Now it's totally different. Sure. Now, I mean, the Hollywood, even though we have work to do, it's more diversified. It's not about your skin color. It's gradually moving to your talent, but we still got a lot of work to do. But it's not about that. It's not about dark skin, light skin anymore. Thank God, right? So yeah, that was a shift for me right there.
Well, it's interesting because normally that story ends with, but I wasn't going to be too dark for television and I was going to show her. And then it switched, but it worked out for you anyway. But it's interesting. You mentioned in 30 seconds, I did this, I did this, I did this. It sounded pretty much like at dinner when I say, pass the ketchup, pass the potatoes. I mean, these things that you did were so powerful and so you. And you're really very humble about it. But you lead me into my next question because I wanted to ask you, I've been on some red carpets at the HAPA Awards, and I thought it was amazing. And I obviously had never even been to one, even as a viewer. So on TV, but I didn't know they give you a card with your name on it. And the person interviewing you sometimes, unless you're famous, they don't even know who you are. So it says, oh, Marc Hoberman from this thing or from this documentary that we were doing, which was on Tubi TV. But I think the vibe for me was beyond incredible because I felt important.
Yes.
The whole look was great, but I felt that the people who interviewed me enjoyed the vibe as much as I did. So you've been on the red carpet, you've interviewed people. What's that vibe for you?
I love it. I'm not going to lie. I love it. I love interviewing people. It's not really about the celebrity interviewing the biggest celebrity for me. I just love I don't know, I guess the lights, camera, action on the red carpet and the camaraderie of the press, all of us working together, not against each other, and just making someone feel important when you interview them on the carpet. Like I've interviewed people that weren't celebrities and I didn't know who they were. They were directors or producers, but I just love getting to know them about their life. And the sad part is I'd want to talk to them longer, but you only have like 5 minutes, right? So you have 5 minutes per person on the carpet, and you got to get out that real important question before they walk away and go to the next person. Right. So I always try to make sure I would stand out in some way, either dance with them, joke with them, or get them to kind of break down that defense where they're just being stoic and formal and answering the same question over and over and over, right? So, but I enjoyed it. I remember my first day I did it, I was very nervous. I don't think I did that well, but everybody told me how pretty I looked in my gown. But as I did it more, I got better. I got more relaxed. I started joking on the carpet. I started dancing on the carpet. I started making it fun for people to come and talk to me. And the next thing you know, Mark, they just started gravitating to me. I didn't have to have somebody, go pull them and say, hey, go talk to Antoinette. No, they were just naturally gravitating to me because it was that confidence that I had on the carpet. We're like, oh, wow, who is that? So it became easier for me. And I still enjoy it. I'm getting away from that slowly into producing, but I love it. Interviewing people on the red carpet.
That's great. And it's interesting because you said the word I was going to say. So yeah, you will have a look and you might look great in your gown and stuff, but you didn't know you were exuding confidence. You just had it.
Right.
And it shone through. And that's really when the light switch flicker goes on anyway.
That click.
Yeah.
That click. Exactly. Yes.
And, I have friends that when I started this show a long time ago, I would say, oh, I'm interviewing so-and-so. And all I get was never heard of them. And I'm with people who are producers, but, fashion designers, lighting directors. The average Joe, let's call it the average layman, doesn't realize that, yeah, I'm in love with, I have pictures behind me. I have pictures, with Denzel in the corner over there and other things like that. However, people really don't realize that you could be the greatest actor in the world, but not without a script. So
that's true. That's true.
You could be in a scene, and if the outfits look ridiculous or the furniture looks ridiculous, so there's so many. That's why people are blown away sometimes. Like most of the people I go to the movies with, they don't stay for the credits. Not that I read all the credits, but I'm like, there were 900 people on this movie. What's going on? I'm not just talking key grip. I mean, assistant to this, the stuntman. I've interviewed stuntmen too and things like that. So the whole vibe of Hollywood and TV and Broadway and things like that, people have to realize what's going on there. You want to go to musical? Well, not if there's just a clarinet player. So it's
a team. It's a team of people.
Huge team effort.
Yes.
Yes. And so, especially with the producer end of it, which we'll get to. So as I said earlier on my show, we often talk about the story behind the glory. So what struggles did you have to overcome as you entered the lifestyle that is Hollywood? Above and beyond when they said that you were too dark for TV, you went over to the other role of other things, but I don't think you slid into it. I'm sure there was some.
Oh, yeah.
And some involved.
The struggles. I think the struggle for me is being good enough. Like even as a costume designer, I was told I was kind of out there and eccentric and very avant-garde, but that's my style. I'm like John Galliano or something like that. But there was struggles. I mean, financially, as you know, any artist, when you're shifting gears just to get established, you go through that struggle of trying to make it and pay your bills. That was the biggest struggle for me. Like every month, how am I going to pay my bills? What am I going to do? What's going to happen? What if I don't get a client? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, until I started developing my other skills and getting confident, people don't understand confidence is key. When I got confident, when I met with people, it was a confidence that people saw in me where I started getting more clients. It wasn't just my skill, it was the confidence. And I have to stress this to anybody that watches the interview. That's the key term to take away from this is confidence. Anything you do in life, have confidence because people will not invest in you or push you or develop you without that confidence. You could be the most talented person in the world, but if you don't have confidence, forget about it. So I think that was the biggest struggle for me is just figuring out how to pay my bills while pursuing my dreams. And that's a lot of artists. And some artists bartend, they waitress, mom and dad helps them, but I didn't have that. I bartended on the side for a little bit, but still that wasn't consistent. So I had to get really creative on making sure like one of my talents were able to pay my bills. And that's why I started sewing and making clothes from my place and just selling what I made to supplement my income while I was pursuing everything else, right? So I had to get really creative and hustle. And if you don't have that hustle, this industry is really not for you. I had to develop a thick skin, and that's the key, right? Having that thick skin, I had to develop that. Because I didn't have that in Kansas City, but I definitely developed that in Los Angeles for sure.
Outstanding. I mean,
yeah,
the Energizer Bunny has nothing on you. I will end with this. You got to get out of my head because you keep saying things. That's exactly the next thing I want to ask you. And you're also a mind reader. You can put that on your bio also. Out of the many aspects of your life, I usually do my homework and look at certain things, and very few people list what you do. You have the 900 things you do and do well, but I love the fact that you highlight mother.
Yes.
So I want to close with that. How do you balance life as a career woman, you're like Superwoman, with being a mother?
It's challenging. Let me tell you a story. Like right after I had my youngest, Braxton, he was only 6 weeks old, and I got a client in Chicago, and I had to be in Chicago for 6 weeks without my son, and I was still breastfeeding. That was hard because I had to hire a nanny and pay a nanny to be a mom to my kids for 6 weeks while I was gone. Even though I was doing FaceTime and Zooming them, that was hard. And now my youngest is 6 and my oldest is 11. Now they're so used to mommy picking up and leaving for weeks at a time. They're used to it. Right. And they actually embrace it because sometimes the client will pay me enough where I could take my kids with me, and bring a nanny with me. But it's tough. It's really tough. I'm not going to lie to you. It's tough. I have my days. And then I have business calls constantly with producers pitching their projects to me. And then they could hear my kids in the background. I'm trying to tell my kids, oh, be quiet. I'll give you a cookie, some ice cream. Be quiet, please. This is important. You know what I'm saying? So I have those days. But Honestly, I think the fact of what I do for a living has opened up my kids to so much. Like we're going to be in Ireland next year. I have a client in Ireland and she wants me to do producing and PR for her simultaneously. So she's paying for the cottage that we're staying in for like, I think we'll be there 2 months. And
Wow.
she's paying for my nanny so I could take my kids. I had to get my kids passports, but we'll be in Ireland next year. But I think because of what I do, I have opened up my kids to so many different parts of the world where if I just worked a 9 to 5 job, my kids wouldn't be submerged to that. They wouldn't have that experience. They wouldn't understand that, you know? And I think that's made them really humble kids being in different cultures. And especially when they see kids going without, like there's some kids that don't have clean running water, you know?
Right. Oh, sure. Sure.
Yeah, where were we at? I was doing some PR in Michigan. Flint, I think it was Flint, Michigan. And my kids were like, I told my kids, don't drink the water. And my kids were like, why? And as we started going around, my kids started hearing other kids talking about, we can't drink the water, we can't brush our teeth.
Mm.
And my kids were so touched by that. And they were crying like, Mommy, they can't drink the water here. They can't brush their teeth with the water that comes out. I'm like, yeah, honey, in some parts of the world, it's like that. So they start appreciating what we have here. You know, they're like, oh my God, I appreciate the way mommy raised me because we've been like exposed to so many blessings and they don't even know it until they go in other countries or other states and they see how other kids are living. So I'm glad I raised my kids like that because my parents did not raise me like that. So I'm glad because it gives my kids a door of possibilities and gets them to think outside the box versus your normal kid that just works, they're not exposed to anything. They go to school, they come home, their parents work a 9 to 5. They're not exposed. They're very ignorant of a lot of things that are going on in the world, and my kids are not. And they're very young. So I'm teaching them young, right?
Yeah, I was going to say this, you're giving them an education that they really can't give them in the public schools.
Yes.
I'm just going to end with this thought. And just know that besides doing this show, I am a male nanny and I've never been to Ireland. So I'll be sending you my resume after the interview.
Right.
Yeah, right. I think the kids are blessed to have a mother like you to have the experience they have. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. So great having you. I want to say to the viewers, don't forget to watch us on E360 TV, available on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. EST, available on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire. Remember to follow us on social media. Life Stories with Marc Hoberman is on Facebook, Twitter, and don't forget our YouTube channel and subscribe. Antoinette Love Ransom, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. To contact Marc, email him at info@lifestorieswithmarchoberman.com or visit him on social media through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.